Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dogman Sasquatch Oklahoman Encounters. My name is Lance Hightower, and I'll be your host for this episode, one of the Cryptid brothers here, coming to you from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I want to thank many of you for our new subbers that just came aboard in the last month. A big thank you to Wes from Sasquatch Chronicles for picking up the last episode that we had. I have to say it was one of the most bizarre and terrifying, interesting interviews that I've ever done as of to date. The gentleman, in a quick update, he's doing better. We speak almost weekly. I have yet to talk with his cousin, but I hope soon we'll have a part 3 and to let you know how this gentleman is doing to date. So again, many of you have commented. We had literally hundreds of comments. Unfortunately, I just don't get the time anymore to comment on everything. I wish that I could, so I do apologize for that. If I do peruse them though, every once in a while, and so you may see me jet an answer to someone real quick if it's a very interesting comment. But otherwise, for many of you also that called into the show, our toll-free number with something that you've seen or been an eyewitness to something, please be patient. We do answer those. We do answer all of them. It may not be immediate, but I will return your call. So since I'm still full-time in the healthcare arena, and this is a prime time of year for cryptid investigations too. Cryptid encounters can happen all year long, as we all know, but if there is a peak time of year, or a peak season if you will, it is fall through the winter. And right now is peak time for investigation and peak time for a lot of these cryptids, since their diets are changing right now to primarily a meat source. So I'm out in the field investigating when I'm not treating clients. So please be patient, as I said, and I will return the call. I will get to you. So when you call in there, give me a little bit of time, a few weeks, to get right back with you. So tonight's episode, before we get going here, is going to be interesting. The gentleman has been on before, Donald Coleman Jr. This is something, he had an encounter back in 81. We're going to talk about that. And then we're going to follow up on this episode with Wiley Dave's mom and some of the interesting sounds and vocalizations she had when her and her husband lived out in Montana. So right now we want to recognize you, our subbers, for without you we would not have a show. It's our small way, our small appreciation and token of saying thank you. So we have Blue Man 196, Yvette Mancuso, Papa Mama, Annette Smith, Wylam 101, Griffman, Lisa Diaz, Mr. Shackleneck, Patrick Pope, Rhett T, Joseph McBride, Donna House, Force 029, Sean White, and 19 Ranger 86. Thank you guys so much for subbing. We appreciate you, and thank you for sharing with others as well. So right now, let's go ahead and get to the episode of Donald talking about the encounter he had in 1981, and then we'll follow up with Wiley, Dave's mom.
If I could get through that Sasquatch encounter, if I can get through this, I think the Lord really going to do something with my life down the track a few ways. So it's I thank you for having me on again, and for talking through this encounter, which I believe destroyed my law enforcement career.
I've heard a few episodes where folks have been in a certain occupation relating with the outdoors, or becoming in contact in the outdoors, and being that in law enforcement is not necessarily exception. You're outside all the time. When people have these events, it's traumatic. It invokes a lot of post-traumatic stress disorders and syndromes. It really confines people, and it can for years. And when people hear this initially, they go, I know what people are thinking. They'll say, how can an encounter cause lasting effects? Just a moment, 30 seconds, 10 seconds, 1 minute can last years and years and years. It's because it's such a traumatic event, a frightful event that is not understandable. How can something exist like this and people never talk about it? And so that's the thing that is frustrating and is confining. You're like a prisoner in your own mind because you really can't go out and just talk to people. Until these shows came up, there wasn't any outlet for people to go to or talk.
There was no outlet. There was none. And I think I took it as a shameful act on my part. I had the evidence that it was there. It left a footprint and the hair samples. I had it in my hand. I had it, but how am I going to send this? Who am I going to talk to? See, back then, that would have really put me in a bad light in law enforcement. And then when I covered it up, I felt so ashamed, that here I was to serve and protect the public, and yet I covered it up because I was afraid of the consequences if I would have shared that. Just like the Patterson Gremlin film, when he showed that, look at all the ridicule that man took because of that. And he was sharing the truth, and nobody could take it. It's like that movie, You Can't Handle the Truth.
Yeah.
So, in my law enforcement career, I had a hard time even sharing the ugly part of law enforcement, the carnage that I witnessed in car wrecks and killings and stabbings and rapes, that I looked at people's eyes. I mean, that affects you whether you want to believe it or not.
Sure. I can't even imagine what men and women in law enforcement go through each and every day throughout the country. You see just as many unfortunate crimes in a very rural setting as you do in a very heavily metropolitan area. I just appreciate you talking openly and frankly about what has happened to you in the encounters and how it's affected you, because I think it's important for people to know that it's just a given. These things are real. It's not a matter of belief. It's a matter of knowing. And when it's good medicine to share. It's very releasing.
Yeah. Well, it opens. I think it helps other people to step out in faith and open up. If I did it, I will tell exactly where it went down, and not going to pull any punches, and tell it, man up, stand up, and tell it like it is. And by doing that, it helps, now I'd like to clarify something if I could on episode 15.
Yes, please.
I said, there's two things I need to make a correction on. Okay, the guy that had the encounter near Tishomingo County High School, I said Dogman. It wasn't Dogman, it was 3 Bigfoot. That he opened the door and he stared right in the face of one. So I know I could testify about how he felt when he saw 3 of them during a severe thunderstorm. And the second one was on Highway 18, stopping the four black men doing 110. It was in Hickory Valley, Tennessee, and that's part of Hardeman County I was in, and that's a little bit north of Grand Junction is more along the southern border of Hardeman County, and Hickory Valley is up a little bit toward the north part. Not much, but it was up about 10 or 15 miles from my Grand Junction, Tennessee, where I was stationed. But I want to make those 2 corrections right there. And I want the people to understand, I have faced all walks of life, all colors and creeds. Okay, I would just get out of the Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy. It was class 279. I graduated May the 15th, 1981 in basic police school, post-certified academy trained, and headed to Collinwood, and I rented an apartment above the chief of police, and I was above him, and he was real stringent and strict. He'd gotten out of the Army in Atlanta, Georgia, and Freddie was the sergeant, so he said, well, what shift do you want? I said, well, I work the midnight to 8 a.m. shift because I can be by myself and be my own person. And so Freddie worked 4 to midnight, and then the chief worked 8 to 4. So that's how it started. And then the chief said, why don't you move in with me Jerry Sanderson was the chief, and he said, "Why don't you move in with me?" And he had a lot nicer apartment. He said, "You can have one of the rooms, and we'll split the expenses." So that's what I did, and so I roomed with him, and so we would miss each other because, I mean, I'd be there, like just maybe a couple of hours before I'd go on duty.
Right.
And sometimes I'd go on early if Freddie needed me to work with him. Because sometimes the 4 to midnight shift was very, very busy with a lot of calls. So I'd take we had 2 units, and so I was on, this was August 25th, 1981, which is Tuesday. And school had started back, and I had to work the school zone, between 7 and 8, and, be down there with the blue lights flashing and stuff, slow everybody down. I didn't really have to direct traffic. I just, was out there giving the crossing guard help and stuff, support help.
Right.
And, I really wasn't running radar. I had a radar, but I thought, I don't need people in a hurry and all that. So I would get out there and flag them down if they're going too fast, kind of like slow down like that,
Right.
And so, okay, now how I patrolled, I would cock these spotlights on either side of my window, outside window, at a 45-degree angle. When I drive by your home, it would shine under your driveway, your bedroom, your windows, that low the ground, and doors and stuff. And sometimes you could catch people breaking in. I caught some breaking in like that. I caught smoke, or maybe I caught somebody to turn their hydrant on. It's running full blast. I would get out of the car and go up there and turn the hydrant on for them. One time I would creep between 3 and 7 miles an hour. That's creeping. And I would creep down one side and turn around and creep up the other side to give everybody the same, security that I was providing. So I would creep along the roads, but there's one area that nobody ever patrolled, and that was over by the Hassel Used Lumber Company. This is Collinwood, Tennessee, zip code 38450 in southern Wayne County, Tennessee, on Highway 13 South, which the Natchez Trace Parkway ran parallel to the city limits of Collinwood for about 2 miles. So that was an unusual deal, the Natchez Trace. And anyway, I was patrolling over by house, and everybody started calling in and really bragging on me and my patrol. He goes real slow. He's got his spotlights out. He's very, he wants to do a good job. That's what everybody would say when I was on the midnight to 8 a.m. shift. They were bragging on me. And during that time, Lance, we were getting several calls, and a lot of them were kind of like the county was just across the line. And when we graduated from the Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy, I also got a regular deputy sheriff card. Said the Wayne County regular deputy sheriff. I would back up the sheriff's department, and they would back us up. It was kind of like a mutual aid deal.
Right.
So I had my law enforcement went outside the city limits of Collinwood, and we didn't have to call the sheriff or not get to be deputized. Now, that was in Hardeman County. We had to do that, but not in Wayne County. Totally different setup. And I had to back up the deputy sheriffs almost 20 miles down the road at some of these bad beer joints that had to go in and raid, and I'd be on that deal. But this particular night, I was in the city limits of Collinwood over by Hassel Used Company. I was patrolling. It's probably about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. I hear some noise. I said, and I always turn my police radios off and my FM radio, the pop tunes, I turn it off. And I'd listen, just really listen. And I perfected my hearing. And I kept hearing the limbs snapping. I said, man, there's something. Somebody's cracking the lights off over there. And I said, I'm going to go read the riot act to them. So drove the patrol car, left that little residential area, drove around and drove over there and got out. And I remember what the state trooper told me. If you really want to bring home your authority as a law enforcement officer, grab that shotgun. And that'll let them know you ain't playing around. So I remember what that state trooper told me. So I grabbed my shotgun, got my KL flashlight, got out of the car, turned it off. I didn't hear anything, but I noticed a lot of limbs snapped off about 9 to 13 feet high. I said, well, what's doing that? You know, that's unusual. Mm-hmm. And I looked around, and I walked and looked around, and I saw the limbs snapping off, and I thought, somebody's gotten hired to clean out this little area here, and they gets her overzealous, probably want to make a good impression on the boss, how quickly they can get it done. And I was thinking, I'm going to have to read the riot act to them about this disturbing the peace, because from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. there's no activity. That's the way it read the city charter. We got a lot of disturbing the peace citations during that time. People getting rowdy and stuff.
Right.
And I just couldn't figure out what was going on. And I didn't hear no engine noise, no motor. Like, well, maybe somebody's bush hogging. And maybe they shut it off and they see me over the shotgun. And I just couldn't figure it out. So I walked back. But I had an eerie feeling. I said, I got a weird sixth sense feeling. I mean, like the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. But I didn't hear anything. I didn't see anything. I didn't smell anything. So I went back, got my car, and started back on patrol. But I didn't go far out of that area. I just felt like I'm going to hear that. Somebody's bush hogging or doing something. And every time I come by, they stop. You know, I fixed to get a hold of them. That made me mad. And because they're disturbing the peace. I mean, they're disturbing my peace, plus the people that live there, they're disturbing their peace.
Right, right.
We didn't get any calls. Back then, we would have done 911. You had to call directly to the, if I'm not answering the phone, the sheriff's department does, and sometimes they doze off, you know. That does happen back in that time. And I went on patrol, and I took a break, and, you know, got a refreshment or something like that, and went to HQ, took a break. I was suffering from sour belly that night, you know, just real sour stomach, and uneasy feeling, so I went back and got some medicine for that at HQ, which is police headquarters, and I went back over there. And what prompted this was we were getting calls from people's gardens, fruit trees, you know, these fruit bushes like raspberry, blackberry, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Were getting raided. And they were people, and chickens were coming up missing. It's kind of like the Mayberry caper. I guess I really did look like Opie because I was real young looking. One of these days I'll send my sheriff's badge to you and let you look at it as long as you give it back to me. But you'll see that I look like Opie Taylor, you know. And they called me Opie. I hated that, you know. I did it look like Opie Taylor. They called Jerry, Andy, and then and I called Freddie Barney, and I was Opie. It's the Mayberry caper. We got chicken thieves, and they were laughing. The city was laughing at us. And so Jerry was the one, he did not like that at all. Freddie took it in stride, and I got called Opie. And, you know, they said the Mayberry caper, the chicken thieves and the garden hoarders, and they're stealing pies out of the windows, stuff like that. I mean, it really was like that, you know, and that's what prompted me to go patrolling over there.
Sure.
And if you Google Collinwood, Tennessee, and if you find Hassel Used Lumber Company, you'll see the little area that I was in, patrolling in. It's a little loop. It's like an upside down U, and there are houses all around it. And you see how close it was to the Hassel Used Lumber Company. But that area now that I waded in chest-high grass with, it's cultivated to some kind of garden or something. But anyway, I left HQ and I went over back to, I said, I got to go back over there and listen. So I went again. I heard that snapping noise. I said, well, I'm going to get this rascal this time. And I don't like wading through. Back then it was chest-high grass, full of poison ivy, poison sumac, and all that stuff. Poison oak. Well, Opie here is highly allergic to that stuff, and I hate wading through grass because you got all the ticks and chiggers and all that stuff.
Oh, right.
And you know, I thought, well, I'm going to have to wade through this grass. And I got my shotgun out again. That eerie feeling hit me hard this time. And it's almost like you're fixed to confront something you have never seen before. So I eased through the grass, and I heard that snapping. Pow! You know what it sounded like, Lance?
What's that?
It sounded like when ice gets on a tree and the limb is too heavy for the limb. It's like a shotgun going off.
Oh, yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I started hearing that.
Okay.
And so I was waiting. I had 357 in the holster. I had the WT with me. I had it turned down low. I had all the police radios off. I said, I'm 10-6 at this. I just told them I'm 10-6 checking out a prowler, you know.
Right.
And I told them I had the shotgun with me, and in case something happens. And I told them where I was, and I was wading to that chest-high grass, and I got within 12 yards of this thing. And it's like, it's almost
yards.
Like you better hit that dirt, that ground, and you better go down as quick as you can, and you better put your face in that mud, in the grass. Oh, I didn't want to do that. I thought, no, I don't want to do that. And I heard that snapping noise, and it got louder. I thought, good night, what is this? And as I was going to the ground, this thing, whatever it was, I call it the shadow creature, is what I call it. It stepped out of the tree line, between the tree line and the edge of that building. It stepped out. I caught the shine of its eyes. It was like a cherry color eye shine. It was dark. I mean, it was really, bright. But the features were dark. And as I was going down, I pulled out my 357 Magnum, and I had it in front of me. It's a tower. Well, I did have a 38, but I left it at HQ, and I got the 357 Magnum this time with me. I was going down, and I went down, and I saw that creature, and it let out a guttural growl that I cannot duplicate. But when it did that, I went down, and I lay down face first in that grass, and I lost my bowels. I just, sour belly just went, this damn busted on me. And I go, oh no, it's a bad time.
Oh no.
And I had to, and when he let that go growl, I clicked that shotgun, I put the safety off and put it on. And I had it where I thought I could get in firing position and take out its legs.
Yes.
And I could not move. It paralyzed me with such fear that I've had to deal with fear from being a victim of child rape at a daycare center in Memphis. And I went to bed for 20 consecutive years till I got counseling. So I can tell you what this thing did to me. It just literally destroyed me. I locked in fear. I laid down, and that thing, when it heard me click that shotgun off the safety, put it off the safety, it put one foot forward, growled again. I laid there motionless and locked in fear, and I felt like it just broke my spirit.
Oh.
I felt like my spirit just left me almost. And it turned around, and I heard it go off in the distance. I lay there for 10 minutes. I got up. It was the worst diarrhea I ever had in my life, and it was all over me, really.
Oh.
I was soaked in it. And I got up, and I crawled on my hands and knees through that grass, too afraid to get up. and I crawled all the way back to the patrol car. It took about 15 minutes to get back, to go 12 yards.
Oh,
and I got back in the patrol car, and I was as white as a ghost, total shock, went back 10-8, and I said, I'm going to be 10-10 at HQ for a while. Got out of the car. Oh, man, it just, I had to first clean myself up. And I couldn't go wait to, the chief up, because he would want to know what happened.
Right.
I didn't say anything to anybody. I was in total fear. I had the training and the weaponry to retaliate, but when that thing let out that growl, I couldn't move. It broke me down. It was like that deer in the headlights thing. It broke me down. I went back. I took off my shorts and my everything below my waist, and I took a hot bath, and I took a cold shower, and I got my pants washed out best I could, and I thought, well, doggone, I don't have a washing machine here. At least I could have got the smell out. And I grabbed a towel, and I grabbed the fire department blanket, and I went into total shock. And I remember when I was at the academy how to treat shock victims, and so I went into that mode to treat myself in total shock. And I lost it. I cried. I screamed. I hollered. I did all those negative emotions that were going through me during that time. And I laid there for an hour, and I cried my heart out. I was in such fear. I've never been in fear like that ever again. These things are real. And so I got up. I waited to about almost 5:30, 5:45. Put my wet pants back on. I took some bar soap and scrubbed them down and wet them again, but I had to put all that. I got up. I went to Melvin's Diner just down the street and got some breakfast. I couldn't eat, but I did drink some coffee to kind of, wake myself up from this. And
right.
Melvin kind of looked at me kind of funny, I said, well, Melvin, I just had a bad night. I don't really want to talk about it. And then I left Melvin's, and then I went back. I went back to HQ and cleaned up the police car. Got it cleaned out real good. And so I went on. I went down and did scoop patrol. I stayed in the car and had the blue light flashing. Then I finally went back to the apartment and went 10-7 out of service, and Jerry was getting up, getting ready to go out, and he saw you said, you don't look like you feel good. I said, no, I didn't say anything to him about what went down. I was real quiet about it, and he said, you look sick. I said, I believe I am. I just I think, well, I've had sour belly or something. And he went back in the car, and he said, he got on to me about the smelly car. I said, well, I did the best I could. I'm sorry that I didn't get it all. So I went to sleep, but I couldn't go to sleep. I could not go. So I could not get this out of my mind,
Right.
So I waited till about 4 o'clock when Hassel people got off duty, got in my personal car with that 72 Green Oaks Cutlass 4-door. I went back over there and I found 3 hairs on the tree 9 feet up. So I had a little step ladder and I got up there and got those 3 hairs down. I saw a print in the ground. It measured at the heel 6 inches across, but it was 20 inches lengthwise.
Oh my goodness.
I thought, I have the proof to prove what I saw, but who's going to believe me? And as this thing is terrorizing me and did this to me, what's it doing to other people?
Sure.
And I said, what could I do? How could I go on tell? I was freaked out by mine. I was freaked out. And I covered it up. I burned up the hairs and covered it up, covered up that footprint, and never told a soul till right now. I'm telling you, for the first time, you're the first person I'm telling this to. And I was ashamed of myself for covering it up. And I apologize to the citizens of Collinwood, Tennessee. August 25th, 1981, I covered up the Sasquatch encounter.
Well, I can't even imagine what you went through. No one can. That's a very frightening and very personal moment. I can't blame you in many ways, Donald, because who's to say that 10 out of 10 people wouldn't have done the same, honestly? I had a gentleman on I was talking to last night, and he talked about he was fearful about doing something. He said, I should have manned up, and I should have confronted this thing. And I said, well, you know what? Here in my books, manning up doesn't necessarily mean making a bad decision, and that probably would have been a bad decision had you confronted this thing. Manning up has nothing to do with confronting this directly. Your instincts will kick in what you need to do, and I believe that's what happened. And as far as covering up the track or the hairs, in many ways I can't blame you, and I say that because if you would have gone through the list of who to talk to, a supervisor, a pastor, or someone else, as well as I do, they would have just looked at you like, man, I don't know if you need to be on this law enforcement anymore. I don't know if we need you in this department. What are you on? And unfortunately, if no one's had an episode like that, they're going to think you're, they will think you're a little touched. And that's the way it is even to this day. And you have some people. It was my brother Lane, and he was talking to a gentleman that we've had on an episode that was out with some buddies. I can't recall which episode it was, but the episode which he was with some duck hunters, and he was hog hunting, and they were on this property near Luther, Oklahoma, and he told the owner, he was talking to the owner not too long ago, and he said, so what do you think about the Bigfoots on your property? And the owner came back and just chewed him out. The owner said, it's the last time I want to hear you ever use that word again in front of me. I don't want to ever hear you say Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and don't ever tell that to me again. Do you understand? Just chewed him out. And so this gentleman, he just said, okay, I won't do that again. I'm sorry. So, when people have seen these things, they don't want to believe what they've seen, and they get very defensive and irate. So you kind of have, you got the opposite spectrums of people that get agitated and irritated, probably because they've seen something and they don't want to discuss it, or those people that just think you're totally out there and that there's no way this can exist. They rank it up with the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus. So, I can't blame you for that at all. You probably preserved your job, and you probably preserved your department, because the department may have been ridiculed also. So I can't blame you for that.
Well, we were ridiculed for, being a Mayberry, Andy, Barney, and Opie Patrol. Right. All we needed is Gomer nose.
Right.
But, it destroyed me. It absolutely, Lance, destroyed. I was kind of like that Maurice Boscarelli, they call him Bosco, on that NBC series Third Watch.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite shows. And I was gung-ho like he was. I was really, I'd go after it. I was not afraid of anything. But when I started confronting this thing, it's like God said, you're going to have to go just lay down on the ground. And, I said, that thing could tear me to shreds. I'll tell you what, you might get a hold of me, but he's going to go out limping. I'm going to nail his feet.
Was it an instinct to go down, Donald, in the bushes there or in the grass, or was it something?
I think it was. I'll tell you what I believe. I believe it was angelic beings forcing me to the ground.
Okay.
Saving my life. I think it was a supernatural event that occurred right there that forced me to the ground. That said, okay, now pop that trigger, pop that thing on that shotgun. I believe Sasquatch was doing this tree popping, and when I went back and found the evidence, I looked up and he was up 13 feet, and the limb was broken off. I said that rascal had to reach 13 feet. Now, how big he was, I don't know, but I felt like a supernatural force pushed me down the ground, and it's like you're fixing to confront a supernatural being, that you're fixing to step into the twilight zone in the outer limits. You're fixing to step into a portal, and you're fixing to confront something that's out there that nobody knows exists. This is your first encounter, like deal.
Yes.
And I said, I hope it's my last encounter, because I mean, what it did to me. So having these weird episodes with cryptids like Dogman and now Sasquatch, which I kept buried for a long time. I didn't know if people would believe me or not, but I said, you know what? I need to get this off my chest and just unburden myself with Lance, because he understands. And I think you and I have a kindred spirit. You grew up on state parks, and I've lived on state parks, so we have a state park experience right there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have more of a kindred spirit, at least in that realm, And I love your show, that Dogman Sasquatch Oklahoman Encounters. I tell you what, it's becoming the best show out there on the internet.
I appreciate that very much. I really do. We don't put out a lot of shows. I like to just go with, there's not any encounter we turn down. I listen to every story, because in general, everybody, regardless if they've seen a cryptid or not, everybody has a story and their own unique personality and their characteristic. And, when they see something like this, you can tell in their voice, having never met them, they saw something. They don't know what it is, and it freaked them out, and they're just looking for answers. They just want to know, what did I see? How do these things exist? Why did I see it? How come then?
Yeah.
And it's the same kind of litany of questions we all go through when we see something. We're baffled. We're frightened. Who do you tell? You're shook up. You're excited. You're scared. All of those emotions at once. So,
well, I've experienced it, so I know exactly what people are going through. And, this only happened one time. And I went back on patrol, and I went back. I went over during the day, took a patrol car, and I looked. I said, I'm going to be 10-6. I walked that whole boundary line. I looked at every area. I examined it. And I thought, well, I want to know what's out there at midnight. Where does this go? And so, you know what? It wasn't until years later, to about when I got my second divorce in 2006. I used to get the car, but right before I divorced, I'd borrow my wife's car's a Honda Accord. That's the one I saw the 91 encounter with in a Honda Accord. And I would drive all back in there, and I drove down. So I thought, well, I'm going to drive down here to Second Creek, and if you go down 69 south out of Savannah, Second Creek is there's a road right beside it. It goes to Waterloo, Alabama, and the creek eventually, makes a cove. It's pretty good. So I could put a good marina there. Really, it's real big. It's probably looks about 250 acres. That's a big cove.
That is big. Yeah.
But anyway, then I said, I'm going to turn around and go back the other way, and it's called Hogwalla Road. And Second Creek goes on in there, and it eventually comes up. There's several little roads you can take, and I took Waterfall Road, and I saw some beautiful waterfalls all up and down that road. I said, well, they really named that one correctly. And so when I started talking to my remote viewer, she's in London, England, by the way, and I'm going to call her Sister Sarah, but that's not her real name. I was going to use that as a cover-up. But I said, Sister Sarah, tell me about where these where are these cryptids coming in? What they've got to use some kind of a route, to take. Is it a road route? What is it? And so she said, well, I see a dried up riverbed. And I got to thinking, I said, well, I know where that is. That's over at Waterloo. That's Second Creek that runs across Highway 69, and that's Wayne County, and it runs up Hogwaller Road. And I'll tell you why. I saw that thing at flood stage, and it looked like a raging river. And when it's dry, it's bone dry. Of course, a lot of people find Indian arrowheads up through there. And when she said it was a dry creek bed, I knew exactly where it was. And guess what? It eventually come into Collinwood, where I had my Sasquatch encounter. Some of those roads that off of Hogwaller Road lead up into the south area of Collinwood, near where I had that Sasquatch encounter. I call it the shadow creature. But isn't that amazing? Because one of the things I told Vic Conda, my hobby is going down all these back roads to see where they go and see who lives out there and how they're living,
Right.
That's why I like to look the lay of the land and how they making money on it,
Right.
Some of them have hog farms, some of them have. I just want to. I'm kind of like, I like to go back in time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I talked to some people on Facebook in Dyersburg. I asked them some questions, and they were telling me out there on the Mississippi River, I guess around the Lauderdale County line, there's some, there's some bad people back in there, but they said that something called Toot Toot would run people out of there with their shotguns. It'd be duck hunting or deer hunting or whatever in the bottoms of Dyer and Lauderdale County out toward the Mississippi River. And they would tell me of Toot Toot. I said, what is Toot Toot? And they would never say. They said it's like a wild man. And anyway, we're doing a flip of my parents' house. It's built in 76.
Yes.
And this guy named Robbie worked for the Blackwelder's Pest Control in Savannah. I know the owner of Blackwelder's, know him really well. And he's going through a hard time. He's got Parkinson's disease, so it's really messed him up. But he's a super fine guy. And he used to love to come sail up there on Pickwick Lake. And I got to hearing about his demise. I said, I'm sorry to hear that. I was in Sunday school with him in Savannah back in the early 90s. And Robbie was telling me, I said, Robbie, you ever heard anything weird out here, any weird creatures or whatever? And so I told him about my encounters with you and Big Conduct. I said, y'all have to give it a listen on YouTube. I said, have you ever heard? I knew, I kind of felt in my spirit he knew something. So he said that it's his buddies of his were out. I said, were you in the hunting party? He said, no. But I heard this story. I said, all right, just tell me what you heard. And they were out. So this is over here at the woods of Pickwick, which is across the street from Pickwick Landing State Park territory. And it was across Hardin's Dock Road. And back in there was state property but is now the woods of Pickwick, and there's a lot of homes built in the wooded area. And they were hunting, and they were on one of of course you had a lot of logging roads back in those days. And people would go out and log out in the middle of the woods, and they'd build a road out to it. And of course, you had your moonshine steels out there, and probably your marijuana patches or whatever.
Exactly.
People would put out, and it's probably the same in Oklahoma. Tennessee's not much different than your landscape in Oklahoma.
Right. Exactly.
And he said this guy, he said, we were walking down an old logging road, and out pops this creature. I thought it was a wild man, and it was hairy from the waist down, but not from the waist up. And it took off, it yelled and screamed. It startled them. They had their guns. I said, well, how come somebody didn't bust a cap? And he said, because we thought it was a wild man. Somebody just lost his mind and living out in the woods. You know, we should trouble killing a human being. I said, yeah, you would do that. And they watched that thing jump out in front of them and take off running and ran as fast. I've never seen a creature run that fast. He said, well, that wasn't no man. I've been trying to get that guy to come forward, trying to work through Robbie. And I said, Robbie, I'd pay that guy $50 if he tell me that story, and I get him to talk to you and tell that story. That's the first I've ever heard of that.
Oh yeah.
And you know,
that's
and
bizarre.
Lance, that's just not that far from me. It's probably about from where I am to where that happened. That's about 5 miles.
Oh wow, that's close.
That's close. And I have been up in that area walking. I used to, back in '83, I got out of law enforcement, so one day I just walked and I had my gun with me, and I walked the logging roads from Holiday Hills all the way back to where Wood to Pickwick, and came out of a couple of cemeteries out there. Nothing was around them. I didn't see any coyotes or nothing. It was just, I said, well, I wasn't really worried about them. I was worried about two-legged kind. And somebody put a sofa sleeper out in the middle of the woods.
What?
I said, huh? A sofa sleeper. And it's like, you know, like these people that have these stairs and stuff.
Yeah.
And here out in the woods, Lance, it was out in the middle of the woods. So they had a sofa sleeper. I said, well, that's the first time I've ever seen it there. You know, it had it laid out, and it had a plastic sheet on it. I said, somebody's going to get some whoopee somewhere. You know. And so
my God.
I thought, well, I don't want to go out in the woods anymore. I'm afraid I get probably a set of stairs up there. So I thought, here it is in Tennessee. I sofa sleeper. I mean, it was a good sofa sleeper. It was one of them leather kinds.
Oh, really?
And it was still good. There was nothing wrong with the WD-40 the springs, so there it was, right out in the middle of nowhere.
That's funny. Bizarre, but funny.
I guess.
That's bizarre. I want to go back, if you don't mind, Donald, to that moment that when you encountered this thing. You said that your spirit kind of told you that you're getting ready to encounter something totally unnatural. Did you then ever, when you went down, did you get a glimpse of it before you went down into the weeds?
Yeah, I caught his eye shine. It was like cherry red. The eye shine on the shadow creature looked like cherry. It looked like a '56 Buick. It had a cherry tail light on the back.
Yes. That's
what the eye shine looked like. And his width was huge. He was wide across. He was in that shadow between the building and that, and I saw the street light just cut across his face. And when he growled, I saw the teeth. I mean, I was 12 yards away from him.
I was going to ask how far. 12 yards?
12 yards.
Wow.
I used to play AAA football. I was 12 yards away from him. When he did that growl, I had enough energy in my finger to pop that shotgun, the safety off. And I think it hurt it because I know it saw me with that shotgun I was going to show a show of force. I thought I was going to deal with people that were bush hogging, cleaning out that property. I said, you can't do it this time. You got to wait till 6 o'clock. Then you can do it. You know, I thought they were overzealous. And then when I got out of the car, I felt that urge to get that shotgun. I thought, I can confront somebody with that shotgun.
Sure.
And I don't know. I just felt it was almost like God was watching over me. It's to just grab the shotgun. So
Sure.
I grabbed the shotgun, some 10-6, with shotgun out, prowler call, Castle Used Lumber Company. We'll be out for a while. I got my WT with me. And so if you get a call, you can call me on the walkie-talkie. And I squished it down real low so it wouldn't interrupt me going and confronting overzealous workers, but it wasn't overzealous workers. It was a shadow creature. And his footprint was 20 inches.
That's huge.
And but this is what the odd part is. His heel dug into the rock. It was white rock gravel. It dug in, and I measured across the hill, right above the hill, it was 6 inches across. That was a big.
Wow.
That's a big one.
That's huge, huge, huge.
And it had a 13-inch reach, 9 feet, but it had a 13-inch reach because I measured. I got on my little stool, my little
you
ladder.
mean a 13-foot reach?
I'm 6'4", and I reached up with that ruler and I measured it. I had a stick ruler, and I measured it, and I went down to where the stick ruler, and I put the tape measure down the ground. I had the evidence. I saw it. It was real. But what it did to me, I thought, I need to cover this up.
Yeah.
How do you deal with this? Who do you tell? This is 1981. Who do you tell?
Well, there was nobody.
Do the game wardens know about this?
Well, to our knowledge, they've known about him for a long time. But even today, they do. I mean, I had. I just give you a quick example. Is Bill? He's in the healthcare profession, and he had a person that works in the Oklahoma Game and Wildlife, and that came in where he was at, and they were just small talk, and they were by themselves. And when it reached a level of just kind of small talk, Bill just kind of asked just to see what kind of a reaction he was going to get from this person in the game and wildlife department. And the guy was just normal talking, normal intonation. And then when Bill said, yeah, what's this thing about Bigfoot and Sasquatch in Oklahoma? What's your take on that? And instantly, with no delay, instantly and immediately he said, it's not real. They don't exist. They don't exist. They're not real. I mean, it was a quickened answer versus the normal conversation speed. And obviously with that kind of reply, he did know something. He's either experienced something or have been told not to talk about it. And that's the answer it was. So with his answer, gave us the answer, they know about it. So in 1981, there was nobody. I mean, all you could do was just, the internet was still in its infancy. There was no shows yet. There was no YouTube. So there's not much you could have done.
But I'll tell you what, people, I told these workers, and they look at me, I said, I'm telling you straight, I wish I didn't see all this stuff. I wish I never saw any of it. But I have. I said, I kept silent for 36 years on Sasquatch and 25 years on Dogman. Because people, like I said, the witnesses freaked out. They told me to shut up because you can't open your mouth about this. Who would believe you?
Nobody unless they had an experience. And like I said earlier, if they did, then they would just you might get one person to intently listen to you, but you might get a handful that would tell you to be quiet, don't talk about it. If you
That's what they told me, shut up and don't talk about it. And they never brought it up. I want people to step forward with you. I don't care how old this encounter is. I don't care if it's 50 years ago. I want people to step out of the shadows. Go by a bogus name. It doesn't. You don't have to use your real name.
Oh, exactly.
Use a nickname. But let's talk to Lance and tell him what happened. Let's get out of this post-traumatic stress.
Yeah, I mean, like I tell, folks, and I choose the words carefully, but correctly, I hope, when I say it's good medicine to share with his encounters, because it's just not a little bit of fright. It's absolute, terrifying, primordial fear. And when you have a fear like that, if you've never experienced it, it can literally change your spirit. And the words that you used were so, so correct. It can break your spirit. It can change your spirit and how you view things. And that's why, not only on our show, but on Vic's show, one of the questions he'll say is any closing comments or words. And it's like people are saying, reading off the same card. They'll say, yes, I wish I had never saw it. I don't want to see it again. If I do, it'll be way too soon. I don't like to go out past dark. I lock my doors. I lock my windows. If there's kids outside, I make sure that there's always someone with them. If I go in the woods, I'm always with someone else or a group. If it gets dark, I'm out of there by dark. I mean, you hear the same comments over and over after these encounters. So it's not something to take lightly. This is really serious business, but it's good. It's good to share, to be in a community with these shows. Thank goodness for these shows, because it allows people to vent, to get all the details out, to just get it off their chest, and because others want to hear this, because they've encountered the same thing, and, it gets back. Is it better to know or not know? Well, I personally think it's better to know, to plan, to be informed, to know it's out there. And there's still so much. We think there's just, Sasquatches and Bigfoots and dogmen. And there's a lot more out there, people. There's a lot more out there than what you think. There's lots and lots and lots of land still very, very uninhabited out there. Very little people traffic. We just appreciate you sharing, Donald, and taking the time and being courageous enough to come forward. And I appreciate your friendship and staying in contact with me and sharing this that you've not shared with anybody and since 1981. And I can't imagine the grief that you've taken just holding it in and feeling guilty about covering things up. But I don't blame you. I don't blame you one bit, honestly, because there was no sharing platforms at that time. There was nobody to bounce things off of at that time. And so thank you so much for coming on and talking about this and bringing this up. I hope it's helped you as much as it's really shed some light.
Yeah, it helped me to, it's my sister and I were talking today, and I said, what my problem really is? She goes, what? I said, I don't know how to ask for help. I just don't know how to do it. A Episcopal priest told my mother a long time ago, about in the 1970s, he said, Miss Coleman, Miss Martha, her name is Martha Sue. Martha Sue, you know what your problem is? You don't know how to receive. And I thought, that was a profound statement, and he's correct. And I don't know how to ask for help. And, I believe these encounters and all this stuff that's happened to me, I didn't know how to ask for help. And I want people to look. This thing destroyed me. I was never a Maurice Boscarelli ever again after that 81 episode. I was never gung ho. I was held back. Almost like I stood in the shadows, the shade to get out of the hot sun. And I never put myself out there after that 81 encounter. I was totally changed because of that, but in a negative way. And I want people to step out and let's share these stories. Let's get them on Lance or Vic shows or whoever will listen to you. These people care for you. They really do. I feel a relief. I finally got this all out of the shadows into the light. Lance has helped me off. He's a great person. I hope that one day I can meet him face to face, shake his hand, to tell him how much his shows have meant to me. And I really like Wiley Dave Fritz. I mean, I hope maybe next year, maybe next spring, they can come over to my area. I'm going to rent a pontoon boat, and I want Wiley Dave Fritz to call those coyotes out of the woods, because there's a bunch of them.
Oh, he'd love
there
that.
In the Zippy Hollow, the waterfall, Yellow Creek. I want him to get in. I want to see him in action. And I want to take him up to Pickwick Pines, that resort area up there.
Yes.
I'm going to call somebody I know up there, and I'm going to take him up there. I've seen at least 30 coyotes up here toward the evening. I want him to see how many he could get.
Oh, if there's one within 5 miles, I bet you he can bring it in. The guy is amazing. Yeah. I really like him, and I really enjoy your show, and I appreciate you having me on. It has meant a lot to me. I never told this story until tonight. Wow.
This is the first time I ever told anybody. Nobody has heard this story. And I said, I want to tell Lance Hightower, he's a professional. He is a man of his word. And I want to burden myself with this. I feel a lot better. And you're the only one going to get this encounter. I'm not going on any more encounter shows. I'm sticking to yours and yours only.
Well, Donald, I don't take that lightly. I sincerely, I'm honored with that statement, and you've got my number 24/7. If you ever want to call, I'm available. And thank you for sharing this very personal story of yours and how it's changed your life. And we'll be chatting soon here, buddy. I can't thank you enough again, and I hope it's helped you.
Yes, sir, it has. And I appreciate your time and your effort.
Absolutely, buddy. We'll keep in touch. I'll text you probably this coming up week again, just checking on you.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Take care, buddy. Have a good night.
Bye.
Oh, well, yeah, his dad started hunting when he was about 7 or 8 years old. I always hated to see hunting season come because Eric's bedroom looked like a hunting cabin. The family calls him Eric. He's David to everybody else, but he's Eric to us. And when we moved to Montana and permanently, to stay, it was in 1995, I think, we built a cabin up there ourselves in the wilderness. Our friends called us the Wilderness Family. And we didn't have any utilities.
Oh, wow.
Except, we finally got a telephone, but it took us 3 years to get it. And when we first moved up there, I thought there was a bear behind every tree. I was scared to death. But I finally learned to calm down until the one tried to get in the house, and I was there by myself.
Yeah, tell them about when you were cooking the ribs in the cabin. Dad was down there in the woods and was working, and he was by himself.
Your dad was over the mountain on a black powder chute, and I was sitting there in front of the window on the couch, and the tools that was leaned up against the house started rattling, and I jumped up, and I just caught a glimpse of something black, and I thought it was a guy in a black hat. So first thing I did was get my shotgun, and I went over to another window to see what he was doing, and I couldn't see anything. I thought maybe he was going to try to get in our little barn and steal something. So I lost track of him, and then I heard stuff on my back porch rattling, and I thought maybe he was going to try and come in the back door, but nothing happened. Then I hear my propane tanks rattling, and they're the great big things. And I thought, well, how's he going to carry those off? But I leaned over the kitchen sink, just had a peek at what was going on, and there was a bear's face right there in front of me. His nose was right against the window pane, scared me half to death.
Oh, my.
But I had lace curtains up, and they don't see all that well. I could see him very well, but I don't think he could really see me. So I banged on the window with the gun barrel and yelled at him, and he didn't get down, so I went around a few circles because that didn't work. What now? So I went back, banged on the window a little harder, and yelled a little louder, and he still didn't get down. So I went over to the telephone and tried to call where my husband was at. Of course, they were all out in the yard, so no answer. So I go back to the window, and I've lost track of the bear. And about 15 minutes later, my husband and cousin came driving up, and I went running out of the door with a shotgun in my hand because I didn't know where the bear was at, and I was afraid he'd jump out and get him. So when my husband got out of the truck, he says, "Good lands, woman. I've been gone an hour. You forgot me already." He said I was rattling like a $2 radio. So I said, "Come around the cabin, and I'll show you where the bear tried to get in." And there was scratches on the cabin, and his nose print was on the window. And I finally calmed down, and we lost track of the bear. But we had several visits from bears. The reason he was trying to get in the house was because I had barbecued ribs in the oven that day, and you could smell them from outside. So he thought he was invited to supper, but he wasn't.
Oh, sure.
And, and you're not supposed to put any food out or throw anything outside whenever you lived back there where we did. So one day I had just a little bit of gravy that I didn't have anything to do with, and I thought, it won't hurt anything. So I just took it away from the cabin a little bit and dumped it out. It wasn't long, came a bear sitting out there lapping it up. And David, he grabbed his camera, and my husband, David, grabbed the camera to take pictures, and I told him, I said, "Well, fire a gun off or something. He's making himself at home too much."
Yeah, no kidding.
And he finally ate all the gravy he wanted, I guess, and got up and walked off. And I was telling my neighbor that lived over the mountain about it. And she said, "Yeah, I know. He was over at my house the next day looking for biscuits to go with his gravy."
How funny.
What's funny, though, is, now that you and I have started doing what we're doing with chasing the Dogman and Bigfoot around on all these encounters, Dad and Mom moved up there, and I don't think Dad and I ever since he moved up there, we never even talked about a Bigfoot or anything being up there, did we?
Yeah.
We never even gave it any thought until I had this encounter.
Now,
Oklahoma.
Dave, could you
Dad,
do me
I wonder if there was anything around our house.
David, can you do me a favor? I don't think we got from your mom exactly the location of where this was at. I know where it's at, but could you please state where it's at again?
Okay, tell them exactly where you guys live there, Mom.
It was in the very northwest corner of Montana, just 20 miles below the Canadian border.
Right on the edge of the Bob Marshall Wilderness area.
Okay.
And
what year was this?
Go ahead.
What year was this?
We moved up there in 1995, but we didn't live there full time. We couldn't go to our cabin in the wintertime, so we had to come back down to Tulsa.
Dad would come back down here in winter down here, and he'd work with me at the power plant and stuff, and help me in my shop. And then as soon as it started getting warm, they'd load up and make a trail back to the cabin.
Is that cabin still there?
Oh, yeah. We sold our place, but the cabin was there. And we didn't have any electricity. We had to make our own with a generator. Whenever I wanted to iron or sew, I'd plug in the generator. One night we went to dinner at a friend's house, and we came back kind of late. So we just went on to bed. The next morning, my husband Dave got up to go get something out of the ice chest for me to fix for breakfast. And the generator was laying off on the ground. Something had knocked it off the porch, and it had landed upright for some reason. And he had two ice chests out there. Well, he found muddy paw prints on the one, and what had happened, the bear had tried to get into the ice chest, and he had backed into the other ice chest, and it scared him, and he went off the porch and took the generator with him, I guess.
Oh.
He didn't get in the ice chest, or I'd have really been mad, because I was going to have those chickens for dinner the next day.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, if you
Lance, we were talking about when I talked to Duke the other night. Yeah, he was real interested about where Mom and Dad lived up there, because that's his research area right there, where they were at. He was telling me all the things that went on in that area. And there was a lot of things that happened. Mom had stuff happen to her. I mean, she got a lot of stuff to tell, but there was no time at all did me or Dad, either one, ever talk about Bigfoot or anything, or Dogman or anything being in them woods. And, Duke told me, he said, your mom and dad was living right in the middle of Sasquatch Central. And so he said, people don't know what to look for, or they don't walk out in the middle of the road in front of the truck. They don't know.
Well, and that's it. I mean, that's a very, very keen and definitive point you make, because
not everybody has a JC sighting like our friend the other day.
Exactly.
Well, that night we heard that strange howl. Since we didn't have any electric, we just had a transistor radio we listened to. We'd go to bed and listen to the radio till about midnight. We'd just turn the radio off and kind of dozed off, and we heard this sound, and I said, what is the police car doing out here with the siren on? And it just sounded exactly like a siren, and then it kind of went down, and an octave down. It scared me the daylights out of me, and I sat straight up in bed, and I told him, I said, you're not going out there, it might be Bigfoot. I was just kidding. I didn't believe that.
How many sirens did this thing give? How many? What did it? So it sounded like a siren. What time?
Yeah.
Did it give like 3 or 4 of these?
Well, it just was one long one. It just went up and down. I mean, it wasn't just one long siren. You know how a siren sounds when it's coming, like that. It makes a different sound.
Right.
But
I played that one that they said where they talk about it's the best recording of a male Bigfoot, the challenge howl, and I played it for a while ago, and she said that's exactly what it sounded like.
Oh, really?
The siren call is what Boone and Kumbo and Bear call it the siren call.
Yeah,
this thing was in the front yard, and
they're in our driveway.
Yeah, and they didn't know what it was, and who was it told you it was a moose?
We was listening to a guy on the radio not long after that, and he had several different animal calls, and he had one that sounded like that, but he said it was a moose.
I never heard a moose make that sound.
I haven't either. So what time of the year did this occur?
Oh, gosh, I don't remember. I just don't recall what time it was.
Was it after you guys come back to the cabin, or right before you come back when Dad was coming back to work with me?
No, it had been there. It was probably, I don't know. It wasn't real cold, so it must have been earlier in the summer. We'd usually go back to Montana about May.
Okay, so
about sometime between May and November.
Okay.
I don't know exactly, about the middle.
But this was late at night.
Oh, yeah, after midnight.
Ah, interesting. Was this the first time that you had heard this sound, or had you heard it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the first time I'd heard it.
Was there any sounds after that?
No, just that one long siren sound.
But
just sounded like a police car. I couldn't figure why. Because we lived out there in the middle of nowhere. Why would a cop have his siren on anyway? There's no traffic.
Right. So did
this same area we're talking about where Dad lives, there was when I was talking to Duke, and they would. This is where the game department and the Forest Service, they hauled when they had a bad bear, like a Yellowstone or any of them places like that. They'd bring these bears into this area, and this is where they dumped them. They dumped all the problem bears right in this area.
Yeah, we saw this grizzly they had brought over from probably Yellowstone or Glacier or somewhere. And one of our acquaintances saw him dump one out, and they tried to tell him it wasn't a grizzly. And he says, I know a grizzly when I see it. I've seen pictures of him. But we saw this grizzly several times, and he was fast as greased lightning. I mean, he'd hear us coming, and he'd take off to parts unknown. But anyway, there was a Forest Service person that lived in town, and she'd bring her big old dogs out there to let them run. Well, we stopped and told her that we had seen a grizzly in that area, that she'd better be careful. And she says, oh, no, grizzly habitat's across the road.
Oh, my gosh.
Grizzly's habitat is wherever he wants it to be.
The grizzlies know where the boundaries are at.
Yeah, they can read. No grizzly this side of the road.
Yeah.
How funny.
Yeah, there was
he didn't get the memo.
Yeah, exactly.
Was it Dad and Keith or Dad and Echo together when they seen the black bear come across the road, and about 2 to 3 seconds later, the grizzly out on his rear end?
Yeah, my dad and his buddy had David just got his first bear while he was up there, and they was headed home with it. And all of a sudden, he said this black bear ran across the road, and there was a grizzly right behind him, chasing him full bore. And so that black bear took off through the woods, and he said he didn't know if he got him or not. So the next day, my husband went down there and checked to see if there's any fur or anything around, and he didn't see any sign of any struggle, so I guess the black bear must have outrun him, but he didn't, his friend Keith just couldn't believe what they'd seen.
Oh, I imagine. So, what other strange...
That country there, like you and I talked about, not going anywhere without a gun.
Right.
I mean, when the old man left the house, I guarantee you he was packing iron with him. He never left there without a shooter on the four-wheeler or walking or cutting wood or anything. He always had a gun with him.
Well, he went out one time when he went out to the outhouse. He didn't have his gun with him. He started back and he
broke his own rule.
Yeah, and there was a bear walked right out in the driveway, and so Dave just stood still. He said he didn't have anything but his pocket knife with him. He didn't know what he was going to do. And said this bear stood up on his hind legs and looked at him, and then said he got down on all four and just kind of moseyed off to the woods. But anyway, I made him keep the Suburban parked in the driveway between the outhouse and the car because I figured I might have to dive in the car someday.
Oh,
to
for
get away
sure.
from
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, this is, you talk about living off the grid, kind of like some of the people we've seen when we was up there with JC. That's what Dad was doing. He's living off the grid.
Well, one time there was a big snow, and trees fall down across the road up there, and you can't get out. You don't have a chainsaw on the truck. So he said, well, let's put on our snowshoes and go see if there's any trees across the road before we take off driving. So we put on our snowshoes and trekked down the road a while, and there's kind of a little draw, a little creek-like thing, and we just went a little ways farther than that. And when we came back, there was mountain lion tracks right where we'd crossed. And Dave says, "Here, kitty, kitty, kitty." And I said, "Shut up, he might come."
Tell them about the one you seen that stared you all down in the road.
Oh, yeah. Just before we came back to Oklahoma to stay, we were moving our stuff out. We were on our way to our cabin, and there was this real pretty mountain lion standing just off the road there. He just stood there and looked at us. He didn't run or anything. He wasn't afraid of us at all.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So what other strange events happened while you were out there?
Well, when they were working, Dave and his friend were working on the road because our road was practically impassable a lot of the time, and they forgot to take any water with them. So I thought, well, I better take them something to drink. So I started down the driveway, and I got to this kind of a little cliff. Excuse me. And I got this weird feeling. It was just like a little voice said, "Don't go any farther." So I turned around and I went back to the cabin, and I thought, well, this is silly. They need something to drink, so I'm taking them something to drink. So I took off again. Got to the same place, and I get this same feeling. Don't go any farther. So I went to the cabin and stayed. I figured that there was something up on that mountain that I didn't need to see.
Was this...
Well, it either probably was one of the three, a bear, a mountain lion, or a Bigfoot sitting up there watching them work on the road.
Obviously, this was during the day.
Oh, yeah, it was about noon. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
We had lots of moose come up in the yard, and David had an encounter with the moose down at his hunting stand. There was a road split up our property. One area of our property had the great big old pine trees on it. So he had a tree stand. So he's going to go over there and see if anything been messing around under it. And he walked up on this big old bull moose. And he didn't have a big rifle with him. He just had a mediocre one. I don't remember what it was. But anyway, he said that old moose started bellowing. And Dave said he got a tree between him and the moose, and he didn't want to have to shoot him because, of course, he didn't have a license. It wasn't moose season anyway. So he said he threw tree limbs everywhere and finally took off to the woods. And Dave's heart kind of got back to the normal beating.
Oh,
he came on back home.
No doubt. That would have been a little frightening.
Well, the same thing happened a few days later. He went back over there, same song, second verse.
Wow.
The moose was still there?
Yeah, the moose was still there, but he left. He didn't take after your dad. Then one walked up right in the yard. They was out raking leaves. Turned around, there was a moose standing there watching him.
Looking for a handout.
Yeah, no doubt. So,
yeah.
Did you...
we had a lot of fun up there.
Oh, it sounds like it. That country is so beautiful, and You know,
Oh, yeah.
you were ahead of your time with going off the grid, because nowadays that's kind of the in thing now. You know, get a tiny house, go off the
Uh-huh.
grid, do solar, do wind, do generator. I know two couples right now that are 100% off the grid, and I love staying with them. It's great.
Well, it's so quiet at night. It's almost scary. The only thing you hear is the hum of mosquitoes. I mean, they sing to you. We had to put a net over our bed, you know, like they used in Africa a long time ago. You drop it down over the bed so
Sure,
mosquitoes
sure.
can't get to you. I told him, I said, I always knew they'd drop a net over us someday. But the mosquitoes are vicious up there, and they're big things.
Wow, I guess I never would have thought of that.
Oh, boy, they are ferocious.
How far was the cabin from Flathead Lake?
That's down by Missoula, so that's
That's where Duke's at.
that's close to 200, not quite 200 miles, I think.
Duke told me, he said that whole stretch of area there, that Bob Marshall Wilderness area and the Yak and all over in there, and Flathead Lake is considered the biggest Sasquatch sighting area in Montana. That's where they have all the encounters. He said you guys were living right in the middle of it.
Well, Rosalie, what do you think about all of this and this Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and Dogman phenomena? What's your personal opinion and take on it?
I don't know what to think. I just hope I never see one if they're for real.
Right.
And I hope Eric wants, I mean, my son Eric wants to, we call him Eric, but he calls himself David because he's named after his dad. But I'm scared he might find one.
Well, I was just curious on your take. You know, I always like to ask people, you know, when they've lived in the wild or experienced something unusual that they haven't heard, or seen something they haven't seen before, just kind of what their take is on the possibility of something that exists that they've never known it exists.
Well, just before we moved back here, about a few weeks before we moved back to Oklahoma to stay, late at night, we heard this weird noise. It wasn't a howl. It was just almost like a moan down in the woods way off from the cabin. And then later, I'd hear one closer to the cabin. And this kept on for maybe 5 minutes or so. So we never did figure out what that was, but it was kind of scary.
That sounds like they're calling back and forth to each other like we've heard, doesn't it, Lance?
Yeah, it really does. I mean, there's just the great thing about living, you know, out in the woods and hunting is that you get to know all the normal game sounds, and so much so that when abnormal sticks out, you go, wait a minute, what's that?
Yeah.
It doesn't.
I did that a lot.
Yeah, well, you know, that's the good thing. You know enough of normal that when abnormal comes along, you go, okay, that's not in my collection of known sounds. So you say that happened a lot.
Well, of course, I'm not used to a lot of wild animal sounds. And we had, every morning about 7 o'clock, we didn't need an alarm clock. There was 2 old geese that would fly over honking and land in a little pond we had down there. Just regular clockwork. Here they come. And one day we were starting for town, and there was a mama duck going on the road with a bunch of little ducklings following behind her. And they wouldn't get off the road. She finally got off the road, but they just kept going. And every time they came to a mud puddle, they'd swim like mad through that puddle and then take off down the road. So David had to stop, and I got out of the truck and herded them off the road so we could get on down the road without running over them. And we found a baby moose that had died right down, not far from our driveway. We'd started to Canada to play, Dave was going to play fiddle in a little fair. And this little moose was in the road. Well, it got off of the road finally, and we came back. Didn't see it, but Dave went down there the next day and looked, and the poor little thing was laying there dead. And the mama was not far off. You don't mess with a mama moose, so he called the game guy, and he came out, and David loaded it up in a big old tractor that had the front end loader on it, and hauled it off for him, and he went back where they left it a few days later and said there wasn't anything but just a ring of hair or something had eaten it completely. And we don't know what that was.
Oh, wow.
And then one morning something interesting happened. David got up and went out to the outhouse, and he started back to the cabin, and there was a thing that looked like a wolf between him and the door. And it was a beautiful animal. It had silver hair and blue eyes, but there was something wrong with it. It would just look through you, and it was going around and around in a circle. Well, it finally moved off far enough that Dave could get in the house, and he called the game person. And he
told me that one.
Didn't I tell you that? Oh, well, anyway.
How big was it?
It was like about the size of a big German Shepherd, and it was so pretty. Well, anyway, the guy finally found us. He didn't know anyone lived back there, so it took him about an hour or so to find us, and he came out, and he and Dave got it into a cage, and he took it down the Kalispell to the game place, and they examined it and all, and it had some kind of a brain problem, and so they had to put it to sleep. But anyway, some people up there raised these wolves, and I think that this one was defective, and they knew they couldn't sell it, so they just brought it there and dumped it. Because it was in perfect shape. I mean, it had been fed well, but it was just didn't have a good mind. And it just scared the daylights out of me when I seen it.
Oh, I'm sure. It would anybody. My goodness.
Yeah.
My goodness. So how long did you guys live up there?
We were up there for 12 summers. We couldn't stay in the winter. We almost had to come back down here. But the way we found out about this place, his friend Keith Johnson lived by us in Tulsa, and as soon as he got through college, well, he started moving around to different places. He was a petroleum engineer. And we went to visit him up there in Montana because they had already built a cabin out in the wilderness. And David liked it, so he immediately started looking for a place to buy. Well, he and his friend Keith were out driving around one day, and they seen this guy coming down the hill carrying a Christmas tree over his shoulder, and so they asked him who owned this property, and he said he did. And so David asked him, he said, well, would you consider selling any of it? He said, well, I said I might. So they made a deal. We traded some land that we had down on a lake and down by Eufaula, and we traded that lot. I think there was 2 lots we had, and that and 20. We got 20 acres up there, and we gave them some money to boot because our land wasn't as big as theirs. They had a great big lot of land with trees on it. Wow. So that's how we ended up there. We on vacation time, we'd go up and work on our cabin. So it took us about 2 years to get it built finally. But, it wasn't anything fancy, but we enjoyed it. We really did.
Oh, I bet.
And this guy that she's telling you about, Keith Johnson, I've known him since, well, how long have I known? Since I was about 5, right?
No, since you were about 2.
Well, I guess, yeah, Keith was a petroleum engineer. I remember he was still going to college here then, wasn't he, when he used to come over to the house. Mm-hmm. He dropped by the house some month to make him beans and cornbread. And so Keith, you know, I mean, this guy's a real good engineer. He's been all over. He was on the Alaska pipeline and everything. You know, we went up there to Alaska, and me and his boy were about the same age, and me and Greg got along real good, you know. And I mean, we flew all over. Keith's buddy was in the military there, and they had a plane, and we flew all over up into Alaska and the interior, you know, up there around Mount McKinley and all over there, and went to a place in this town out in the middle of the bush out there and had a hamburger at this place and fly back. That's just kind of stuff Keith likes to do. But he still lives out there. He's right there.
Yeah, I talked to his wife just last night.
Oh,
and
really?
I call Keith once in a while and talk to him about stuff and about shooting and everything, because he's a big time. He's the guy I told you about, this the World War II, the collects the German guns and stuff.
Yes.
And he still lives right there, and I don't know if Keith really believes in Bigfoot. But if I told him what to look for, and he knew what to look for, and went out looking, he might have a real shocker. You know what I mean? If he found some stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Well, that's just not something that you go talking about. You know, most people are very protective about that these events and sounds and moments. And, there's a lot of variety of people that believe without seeing, or I should say know without seeing, and those people, then you have a variety of people that they'll believe because they've not seen, but they have a friend, neighbor, someone they trust, they care about, and they believe that in explaining to them that they did see something, so therefore they know they don't have to see it. They just know, I know Joe, and I trust Joe 100%. He's never lied to me, so he saw something. And then you have people that they can have something walk right up to them, broad daylight, they've never seen, and they still don't believe. They're hard-headed. There's just, and you know what? In anything in life, that's kind of funny because a lot of people are that way. I mean, if you get somebody that swears up and down that Ford is the best truck going out there, and then you try to tell them about a Dodge, they don't want to hear you. There's just, and so it's not just with these cryptids, it's with anything in life. My dad is no exception. My dad, my brothers and I have had weird experiences and encounters, and my dad to this day does not conceive or believe that there's anything like this out there in the woods because he has not experienced.
He was a park ranger for years. Worked in just about every park around, didn't he, Lance?
He worked in 3 major Oklahoma parks before he retired, and we've been in the woods all my life and fished and hunted, and and that's the ammunition, if you will, that's the experience that my dad says, well, I've hunted for years and years and years, how come I haven't seen? And I just said, I can't answer that, Dad, I really can't. But, you're saying you haven't seen. How do you know that something has not seen you and decided not to come out? I said, you'll never know. We don't know. I said, I can't tell you why we've seen and heard and you didn't. But I can tell you that other people have seen. My brother Lane and both Lane and Bill have seen. And I trust them and I've heard. So you don't have to convince me. It's not a belief. It's a knowing that these things are real and that they are out there and they exist.
Well, when that Patterson Gimlin film come out, I can remember the exact theater we went to. It was it was the one on 15th up there, remember, or 11th Street. That's where we went that time. And it was a Walt Disney movie called Charlie the Lonesome Cougar. Remember that?
I remember
that cougar it got away, that logger had him, and it was a pet cougar, and it got out and caused all kinds of mischief. It was a Walt Disney film. And then it said the bonus film was the Sasquatch film, was the Patterson film. And so that was what I wanted to see. We'd seen that thing, and I asked Dad, I bugged him for a week after that, because I said, Dad, is that animal really real? He said, well, it's pretty real to me. He said, I think that'd be kind of hard to fake. And then, when did he start that? What year did he go up to Oregon to hunt with Glenn? And they weren't far from where that was filmed.
Oh, goodness, I don't remember that.
Well, Dad started hunting up there in Oregon with my mom's cousin, Glenn Parks, and Dad, he had a 300 Winchester Magnum that he hunted with, and he went up there, and them guys kind of talked about that, because at that time that was a hot topic, when that movie first came out. And so
sure.
When Dad come back that first time from Oregon, and when he's working up there in America, he had all kinds of cartoons on his lathe and the board out there, was Sasquatch cartoons and had to draw pictures of him hunting Bigfoot and all kinds of stuff. But and then after Dad quit hunting in Oregon, we quit talking about it very much, and then we never really discussed it until I saw that. I called in the Dogman, and then Dad, he started telling me things, and Mom started telling me things that happened up there in Montana.
Dave, what year did you see that Dogman that you called up again?
2013.
2013. It's been, it's really interesting about your experience and our show and everything is that everything, don't you think everything has happened really, really fast? I mean, it seems like this whole cryptid phenomena, you have a ton of people that's never ever going to go out into the woods. The closest to the woods that they'll come is going to the city park, and yet they're infatuated, and I don't blame them, but they're infatuated with the shows because I think it's the people are very real that we interview. They're down to earth. They're just good working folk, and they're down to earth, and they have such a believable quality in what they saw. And most people have a remarkable ability when they do see something that they've never seen. A storyteller comes out in them, and so you have a lot of people that will ever go out into the woods. They don't know if these things are real or not, but these shows captivate them. So it's been a whirlwind since we got this show started in January of 20th of this year. And I'm sure since you had your encounter, I mean, how many shows have you been on? I mean, you've been on quite a few.
Oh, yeah, just about everybody that had any kind of an interest in this area, the cryptid area, I've been on their show to talk to them about it, But, I mean, Oklahoma's where I live, and so, when I found you guys, I thought, well, I need to let these guys know because this is right up their alley, so, and that's one thing he was interested in was Dogman, so when you started talking, then that's how we got together. But, most of the people, when I was little, Mom would never she wouldn't let me stay up late at night. You got to go to school tomorrow. The only time I can stay up late at night is I have to be on Saturday night, and I'd have to watch John Wayne movies with my dad, or there'd be some kind of a spook film on, and Dad would watch it, Frankenstein or something like that, and I'd get to watch it with him. But, I mean, I never was really exposed to monster movies or anything when I was a kid until I went and seen the movie Boggy Creek.
Yeah.
And then that was, like I say, that come out, and that was a big topic then. But most of the people that listen to our shows and people out there, they watch these TV shows, Van Helsing and what's another one of those werewolf movies? The Underworld or whatever they call it.
Yeah, American Werewolf in London, Underworld, The Lycans.
And these people, they see that from Hollywood, and then now they listen to this, and they're going, well, are these things really real? Are these things out there? And then when I seen it, I didn't know. I was totally flipped out. I thought, man, if somebody's playing some kind of a joke on me, there wasn't nobody could run 50 miles an hour like I seen that thing take off. So,
yeah.
And the saliva dripping off of his teeth to the scope, that's what really got me. I thought, man, this thing is real, and I was totally blown away. I didn't know what to think. I didn't even tell my dad for 30 days. I did all that research and then started showing him, and my dad was really versed on the Bible. He's a good Christian guy, and he knew a lot of things about the scripture and stuff. And I asked him, I said, what in the hell do you think is going on here? And I said, I don't know. He said, the Lord told us a lot of stuff, but he didn't break down every syllable and paragraph for us. He said, there's some things out there that I think he wanted us to see on our own, and some he did want us to see, but maybe he said he didn't tell us every little thing that's out there. So these things are starting to come out now. He said, and you just happen to see it. Of course, Dad's the one that got me started calling. I mean, Mom could remember I used to cry when I couldn't go hunting. I was too little to go, and him and Chief would leave. I'd say, Dad, let me go. He said, no, you're too little. You'll freeze to death. And I'd fall down before a ball, and he'd be leaving. Mom would have to get me calmed down, So finally, Dad let me go, and once he did, I was hooked. But he'd take me kind of calling and stuff, and that's what got me into it. So when I called that person in at my grandpa's farm, then I was hooked. It was like I couldn't never get it out of my blood. I always wanted to do it. And, Mom went with this. That was a tall grass prairie when I did the work for National Geographic, wasn't it?
Yeah.
She went with me up there when I did that work for National Geographic, and of course I always called animals in, and I've been around them all my life. We even had a pet raccoon. I got this. She was my raccoon, but it ended up being Mom's raccoon. And did you guys see any raccoons in Montana?
They didn't have any raccoons where we lived, and I asked the forest ranger, why not? And I said, they were killing the trees, so they did away with all of them. They weren't killing the trees. when I saw 2 raccoons walk across my yard the other morning.
The raccoons were killing the trees.
She, this lady.
Oh.
Huh.
No, we never saw a raccoon the whole time we lived up there. Not in that area, anyway.
Wow.
And my friend, Keith Johnson, always told me there wasn't any snakes up there where we lived, too. Well, that was a big joke when I seen one nearly run across my foot when I was going for a walk one day.
What was that?
It was a black snake with yellow racing stripes. And so when I got home, I called him on the phone and I said, I've got a bone to pick with you. And he said, what did I do now? And I said, you told me there weren't any snakes up here, and I wasn't even being careful. I said, how come one nearly ran at my britches leg?
Lance, I was going to tell you, my dad, he used to hunt coyotes with me and stuff. We'd go out to western Oklahoma, and I'd shoot some of them. He was with me when I killed some of them big ones. And he couldn't believe how big some of these coyotes were. He said, man, I ain't believing some of the size of these coyotes. And all these things are getting bigger. The coyotes have gotten bigger. And they say they run with these dogmen, and now we've seen that picture of that one. Did I give you that picture of that coyote that weighed over 100 pounds?
Yes, it was up in Nebraska.
Yeah, I think it was in Nebraska. And, and Dad said, that there was reports of big wolves up there in Montana. Guys that see them big wolves. The ranchers around there was really getting upset because they dumped these wolves back out on these, they brought them back into the lower 48, and the ranchers were having a terrible time with them, and they would kill, didn't you say one of them, they killed a bunch of sheep one night?
Yeah, over not far from our place. Wolves got in and killed over 20 of them.
Yeah, Dad had told me, he said they'd go into these sheep ranches and stuff, and they wouldn't eat the sheep, they'd just kill them and leave them lay.
Yeah.
Kill them for sport. And the ranchers were all over the Forest Service and stuff. They had meetings about it all the time. They were disgusted with it, but they were bringing them back into the lower 48. So these wolves have even gotten bigger, like that other picture that guy sent us to that one that.
Yes.
That you see what it said on the picture? It said, this is not a bear.
It sure looks like it. I mean, it's the size of a bear, but you could tell, obviously, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, and Dad told me things, like I said, he knew the Bible, and he said, there's a passage in there somewhere he told me about. He said that one day that all these animals, these predators, will start to lose their fear of man. And that's happening right now.
That mountain lion sure wasn't afraid of us.
Yeah, but did you see the mountain lion on the news last night that stared down those 2 hikers in California?
I did not.
Well, they were on a trail somewhere up there in California, and they walked up. They seen this lion in the trail, and so they walked up slow, and then they didn't see the lion. He climbed up on a big rock and camouflaged himself, and he was sitting there waiting for him to come by so he could mount him. He was going to jump on one of them guys, so they started backing out real slow. It was on the evening news. And see, these cats, they used to, when they see a human like that, they take off running. Well, they don't do that anymore.
No, and even coyotes. I mean, coyotes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're notorious, too. They'll come up and in a pack, or I'm sure you've seen it, and they're losing their fear.
I've got that app on my phone. I get deals every day talking about coyotes attacking people and stuff. And, I've been in several fights with them, and, you get, people don't believe it how strong an animal is. I mean, I've got a pretty good-sized cat. My sister's got a big house cat here, and if that cat got mad, you tried to control him, you'd have a handful. You can imagine holding on to a full-grown bobcat or a lion or even a big coyote, I mean, them animals have a will to live, and they're just solid muscle. They're completely, it's they can, I mean, people don't think a coyote can kill you, but he can.
Well, and then you get something that's not domesticated. I mean, you're talking a domesticated cat, putting up a good fight, and you're right. You get a non-domesticated feral type of animal or wild, like a cougar, a bobcat. You got a problem on your hands.
Yeah, and Mom, how tall are you?
4'10".
Mom's real little. She's 4'10", and she was up there living up there in that mountainous area, with Dad. And Dad would go off and he'd either go off hunting or go off to chop wood or something, you know, and Mom would be there cabin. I asked him, I said, you think it's okay to leave Mom by herself? He said, she got a shotgun, she can take care of it. So she wasn't a bit afraid, you know, and the whole family was concerned about that, but she be able to stay up there in the woods, you know, by herself when Dad was off working and stuff. She was never afraid. So there's a lot of these women, you couldn't drag them out there with a log chain.
Oh, no. Yeah, that's one of those would be my wife. There's no way.
Well, let me tell you how David would fix up a shower. You know these solar showers, you've seen them. I know the black bags you fill with water and let the sun warm them, and then you hang them up and you take a shower. You just turn the little hose loose and soap yourself up, and then you turn the water on, and you've got a good shower going. Well, he'd just go out in the yard and do that, but I didn't want to, so he built me an enclosure, and there was just blue tarpaulins he put around it, but he didn't put a top on it. So the first day I go out there to get in there to take a shower, here comes a helicopter.
Oh, no.
That was the fastest shower in history.
Oh, my word. How funny. Oh, wow.
Well, what year was the fires, when the fires got close to you guys' house?
Probably about...
When that 2010?
No, it was before that.
Couple
of years after we moved up there.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Well, in a couple of years, you had fires a couple of times, but one time it was getting pretty close to the house. I could see on here, you know, they was up there, and after Dad got his phone in, I called him at the cabin. I said, hey, that fire looks like it's getting close. He said, yeah, I said, we can smell the smoke. He said,
we can see the smoke.
He said, the woods is full of smoke down here, you know, where they were at. And that's the biggest thing I worried about was the forest fire up in there. And was it Echo that bought the fire truck? Who got the fire truck?
That was George.
George.
From the other ranch.
They went to an auction and got their own fire truck and had it there so they could, you know, because the fire truck couldn't get out there to where they were by the time something went burned down. So they had their own fire company too.
We never did have to evacuate, but we thought we was going to have to. One time we went to a meeting down at the community center, and forest ranger said that if we didn't have our phone then, they said they'd try to get out and warn us to get out. Well, I packed our truck with some things that I couldn't bear to part with, so we were ready to get out at a moment's notice. And one morning about 5 o'clock, I was awake and I saw headlights shine on the ceiling. I thought they were coming to tell us to get out. It was just some poor logger that had got lost, and he was trying to turn around in our yard. I was sure glad of that.
Oh my!
But whenever I smelled smoke, I started looking because I'd get worried.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They've got one going now up there that is uncontrolled. I was talking to my friend up there in Montana last night, and it's not too close to them. It's going west. I think she said north of Eureka, kind of. But she said it's a bad one. They've got firefighters coming in from different parts of the country to help fight it because they didn't have it under control at all, and they had to burn a lot of the land. They'd had several houses had burned, and they'd moved some people out of their homes because it was too dangerous to stay in it. I haven't talked to her today, so I don't know how it's going, but it's pretty bad.
Oh yeah.
Well, Lance, you got to figure where their house was in the northwest corner of Montana. That was right. How far was Canada?
About 20 miles.
Canada, the Canadian line was 20 miles north of Dad's house. And then, you know, that would be bordering Idaho and Oregon and right up in there. So, and all that whole area, that if you took a horseshoe and laid it in the corner of Montana, that is some of the biggest Sasquatch area in the country.
Wow.
That's what Duke said. He said that's a huge sighting area all through there, you know. And
it doesn't
of course,
surprise
you guys
me.
never said Dad never seen anything, but you did hear that. You did hear that one howl that night.
Was there any other unusual howls or scrape or tapping on the house at all through those years?
No, not really. Well, we'd hear deer walking around the yard at night, and nothing really tapping on the house. We had battles with pack rats. They were quite a nuisance. We'd set traps for them and catch them, but it wouldn't kill them, and Dave would have to go out and take his air rifle and put them out of their misery. I told him, I said, one of these nights you're going to go out there with an air rifle, and it's not going to be big enough. It's going to be something else. And he said, I'll say, here, hold this. I got to get a bigger gun.
Yeah. Yeah, that happened. That happened.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Interesting. Well, I'll tell you, there's nothing like country living like that. You learn how to fix things and how to rig things up and make them work.
Oh, yeah.
And just a lot of good ingenuity.
Yeah.
See, they got these shows on the Discovery and Natural Geographic, Alaskan bush people and all these people living off the grid now. My dad and mom was doing that before it was fashionable,
I know, that's what I say.
They're on these shows, and Dad was already doing it.
Exactly, that's what I say. I mean, they were country before country was cool.
Yeah. But it was a lot of fun. I miss it. We really look forward to going back every summer. And now that, well, of course, my husband passed away last year. But anyway, every summer we look forward to going back up there. And he played music a lot. He was in a folk music band, and he played fiddle and guitar. And we was into that quite big, and enjoyed that. And he liked to just go out in the woods and just walk around and just explore. He just really enjoyed that.
There's something about that, when you grow up in the country and you stay out there and you find kind of your own paradise. There's just something about
it was. We'd go for walks in the evening, and of course, I was always afraid we'd run onto a bear or a mountain lion or something. So I'd keep talking to him. He'd say, "Be quiet, don't talk so much, we won't see anything." I said, "I don't want to see anything, we're not in the truck."
That sounds like my dad. He wasn't ever afraid of anything, He always told me, he said, "Well, that's what they make them big caliber guns for." He said, "That'll take to get care about whatever comes up against you,
Right.
I asked him that one time when he was going to Oregon to hunt up there with my mom's cousin. And I said, "What would you guys do if you seen a Bigfoot and it tried to get you?" Dad said, "That's what that 300's for." He said, "About two of these." He said, "I don't think he can take but about two of them." And he's probably right. That's a big gun. 300's a big gun, but he had guns even bigger than that. So that's one thing about my dad. He wasn't scared of nothing. Maybe that's where I get my.
He wasn't even scared of me.
Well, people think. Well, you remember. I think JC was a little bit disturbed when you guys left me on that rock Sunday when I told you, I didn't have the right boots on. You said, "We're going to go check that feeder." And he looked at me like, "Are you nuts? You going to sit there by yourself?"
Well, I wasn't worried. He was worried. I mean...
Yeah, he was worried. And that's what Bill said. Well, that's what Dave's got that big gun for. He can handle himself,
Well, we all had enough firepower, for crying out loud. I mean, it's... We could have shared... Every person that, could have shared a firearm. We could have had another 3 or 4 people and still had enough firepower for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
So I wasn't worried at all.
When we walked off, he found that track about 75 yards from where I was sitting.
Yeah. He just called me, by the way, just now.
Huh. Maybe he's got something new to tell you.
Well, he, one thing, I left him a message, but he was tired, but I said, "Did you check those game cards, those chips?" And he said, "I haven't yet." And so I wonder if he saw something on them. Because
he might have.
He pulled them while we were out there, but he didn't have a way to look at them. So he had to just take them and then go back to the house and take a look at them. So I left him a couple messages saying, "Hey, did you take a look at him yet?" And he says, "Hey, I've been tired trying to catch up on sleep and work, so I wonder if he didn't see something."
Well, I guess we'll find out when he calls you back. He'll let you know.
Yeah.
What we got walking around there. Well, we know for sure that they're in there because we found that adolescent track. That track, it was about 10, a size 10, and we couldn't make a print in that ground. None of us could make a print in that ground.
Yeah, and then the mineral blocks and salt blocks were gone. every week that they put it out, it's gone within days. And even if you put one of those out and you had 100 head of cattle, it's not going to be gone in 2 or 3 months. So, last time I checked, deer don't pick things up and walk away with them. And so,
see,
something.
Right, but see, Dad had another friend. I've known Bobby since I was going to welding school out there at American Airlines. Dad's been, and even after I run the school, Dad was friends with him as long as I can remember, since I was a little kid. And Bobby lives up in there, where's he? He lives in Heathner, doesn't he?
Just inside. Called Hodgson.
Hodgson? Okay.
Uh-huh.
That's right. That's not far from Honubby down in there, and right in that area where Humphrey lived. Yeah. And Bobby, he's a little guy, and he ain't scared of nothing either, but he's never seen one of these. But there was a lady that worked. Dad would have to go over to this hospital, and he'd have to get blood taken off, or whatever, 2 or 3 months, wouldn't he? And did you know that lady's name? He got to talking to that lady, and I might have talked about this on a previous show, but she talked to Dad, and Dad told her about him and I, hunting together and all that stuff. And she said, "Hey, I was raised at Poto." And she goes, "I couldn't wait to get old enough to get out of them woods. I didn't want to be down there anymore." She goes, "You and your son need to be careful poking around down there." And there's things in them woods you won't believe. That's what she told my dad. You better keep looking over your shoulder all the time.
See, I mean, there's Lane and I were talking the other night, my brother, and he's been in woods a long time, and he just said, "Lance, there's things out in the woods we're not even talking about. We're just focusing on a few things, talking about Bigfoot and Dogman." He goes, "There's so many other things that are out there, it would blow people's minds."
Well, and I make that statement. Most people don't know what's 5 miles outside the Tulsa International Airport out here. And that's what Dad always says, He said, "You think these people live in these towns?" He said, "They couldn't tell you what's out past 169 over there. Because their world consists of a little circle of the concrete. They go to work, they come home, and they go out to dinner, and that's about it. They don't think about any of this stuff, What's beyond the highway out here?"
Well, that's just it. I mean,
these things are to hear most of these real good guys that know about these things, Duke and Jim King and them talk about it. They say you don't really have to go that far to find it.
Exactly. You don't. I mean, they're just outside of the city limits, but it's about timing. It's a little bit of luck. It's about the phases of the moon and the weather and all that. But so, it's kind of like a little formula, but the more often that you get out and explore, the more likely you are going to encounter or see these things. That's just it. You won't do it in your office chair.
Yeah, I just wish my dad could have seen a Bigfoot. He was kind of there towards the end. He was kind of, he said, "Well, maybe we'll see one time." We went down to the Honubby Festival down there, and that's why I met Mike Humphrey.
Right.
Jim Lansdale. And Ron Moorhead was there with them sounds, and Mom heard him play them sounds. We got to meet him and talk to him and stuff. And, it kind of sparked Dad's interest again, checking stuff out on it. He was kind of interested in what we were going to see and everything. And it was, he just told me. I mean, when I was little, I asked him out there, he was building a shop out in the backyard one time, and I said, "Dad, do you think them Bigfoot creatures are real?" He said, "Son, I'd tell you that's probably pretty real." He said, "It'd be hard for a man to fake that. It'd be a pretty good suit." And he said, "I don't think I'd want to be walking around out there in the mountains with people that got guns like I do. Somebody run into you and get scared and put a hole in you,
No, he's right.
So he had a point about that.
Absolutely, he's right. I mean, that's the thing, that some of these encounters, people are pointing a firearm or a compound bow, and the thing doesn't make any noise. I mean, these encounters, these people are trying to use English, Hey, back off if you're a man. I've got this gun pointing at you, and yet these things do nothing. I mean, so if it was a guy in a suit, and even if he was half drunk, he would at least recognize, hey, stop it, okay, and come out of the suit and take the the mask off. But, that's not what's happening. You've got these creatures that are real, and they're just standing there, and they're not moving, as in lane circumstance. So, these things are, you're not going to get, if you had people trying to play a joke on you, that's a hell of a joke to risk their life trying to play a joke, and most people wouldn't do that.
I think that good sense.
Yeah, you wouldn't live very long down there in the woods where Dad and Keith lived at. Them people down there, they got a bad habit of shooting first and asking questions later. Something like that show up in the front yard, though, man, I guarantee you there'd been firepower coming up the door.
Exactly. It's been a pleasure. I've never met you yet, but it's sure nice to talk to you. I know I'll meet you here soon, Rosalie, so I want to thank you for your insight and your stories. And Dave's talked about you guys living up there and just kind of the beauty of that area, and now they're kind of calling that area Squatchville. So I want to thank you for your time.
I'm kind of glad I'm out of there.
Yeah, no kidding. I don't blame you. Yeah, but thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Nice to talk to you. You be careful.
I shall. I'm in good hands.
Okay.
I've got Wiley Dave with me and my brothers, and a lot of people want to know how we can go out and do this stuff, and it's not that we're any braver than anybody else. It's just my fascination of understanding these things, along with just good safety measures, allows us to go out and do this. We're not taking any chances or being dumb in our approach. There's always a purpose. So I think with the plan and lots of contingency plans and just communicating effectively, we'll be just fine. But
I hope so.
yeah, we will. Well, Dave, thank you for inviting your mom onto the show. I appreciate it, and we'll get this aired here sometime within the next week or two. You guys have a good night, and thank you. I'll talk to you here soon, Dave.
All right. See you later.
Good night.
Okay, bye-bye.